So, to give it a bit of background information, this happened to one of my friends when he was taking on a road trip. We'll call him by the name Adam. Adam was taking a road trip with his girlfriend to California as they were visiting his girlfriend's side of the family down there. So she was from California and she and her parents decided to move up to Canada back in 2010. This took place sometime in 2016 when Adam, along with his girlfriend, decided to go visit her family in California. Of course, they decided to drive there as driving there would be a lot easier, although it was long, but it was definitely cheaper than taking a plane ticket to get there. Adam, along with his girlfriend, were still on the plane, and they were basically doing their own thing, talking, getting to each other, etc. They seemed to enjoy the ride, and it seemed to be really nice that they got to enjoy their time while driving. However, that was when things started to get a little weird. For one of the reasons, they ended up needing to get some gas, although they were about quarter to the tank, and decided to stop at the nearest gas station. Just in case they can fill up some gas and stuff like that. So they ended up seeing a gas station which happened to be near an Indian reservation. But the thing about the gas station when they pulled over was that it was completely abandoned. Honestly, they didn't think of any of it at the time and thought that maybe it was still run down due to the age. While Adam looked around to find any pumps for the gas, he realized that he couldn't find any at all, and his girlfriend ended up going inside the store just to see if there was anyone in there. But surprisingly, she couldn't find anyone. When she couldn't find anyone, she ended up looking over, and she ended up seeing that there was someone inside the store and was staring directly at her from behind the field. Now, honestly, his girlfriend screamed and said just to get in the car and go, to which that's what Adam did as soon as he and his girlfriend went in there. Of course, when they got in the car, they drove away, but they couldn't ended up knowing what or who was there. Of course, that's when Adam ends up asking his girlfriend if what was it that she saw and etc. Of course, he ended up saying that his girlfriend ended up saying when they got to the next gas station, saying that she saw what seemed to be a person inside the abandoned store. However, she could not identify if the man was a man or a woman, or what it looked like. So it was kind of hard to tell as to who was in there. Honestly, the place they went to had been abandoned for a while, as they went to a motel and they ended up explaining the situation to the store clerk, who managed to give them a little bit of brief description. That motel, that little place, the gas station, had been there for decades, and it had been abandoned over a decade ago, and nobody ever was down there since. However, they had assumed that maybe it could have been paranormal, but on the other hand, it didn't look like there was any paranormal activity. This story still gets Adam and his girlfriend some chills every time they think of it, and they wondered just what would have happened to them if they stayed any longer. Truth be told, the police couldn't really do anything, but they never went to that gas station again, and they advise now to people to be extremely careful, especially if you are approaching that stuff like this on road trips. So this actually happened to a pony club member, which happened to be a friend of mine. We'll call her Katie, and she and her mom were traveling to another part of Canada, which happened to be Vancouver. Now, it was around Vancouver, so I can't really remember what year it took place, but we'll just say it was around 2015. Katie and her mom were driving into Vancouver, although it was a long drive, but she didn't mind it as she really liked having the long drive there, as it saved them money than about buying a ticket for a plane. However, this incident was definitely something that Katie did not even expect to come across, but this was something that she really freaked out at. Katie was driving, well, not Katie was driving, but her mom was driving Katie through a field when Katie all of a sudden needed to use the bathroom. Of course, her mom pulled over and they were around a field, so Katie did her business when she ended up looking to see that there was what appeared to be a path. Of course, it looked overgrown, so it looked like it had been there for ages, maybe a decade or so. Katie ended up coming out and did tell her mom about it, so they ended up deciding that they should go check that place out. So when they looked over at the field, it was cloudy and it started to get a little bit dark since it was around dinner time. However, what they saw happened to be something strange coming from the field. It was not far from the cornfield, but it looked to be as if it was a big creature. It happened to be lying down, and at first she thought that it could have been a horse, but it didn't look like it at all. In fact, it stood up on its hind legs, to which Katie found it odd. It looked like it had like some sort of deer head, and it ended up making a weird noise before dashing towards across the field. Honestly, Katie was still confused as to what that creature was, but her mom and her ended up getting back in the car and they ended up driving out of that area. Still to this day, Katie isn't really sure as to what that creature was that she saw, but if she had to point out what could have been the obvious or maybe best guess, it could have been a Wendigo, but she's still not sure about that. She hasn't been back there since, and she doesn't even know if that creature is still out there or not. She doesn't even want to know if it's still there, and she is glad that they didn't stay any longer. Otherwise, the story could have been entirely different. So, this happened to a friend of mine, which of course we'll call her by the name of Carly. Carly liked to take road trips pretty much in the summertime, and this took place in summer of 2017. She happened to be at a restaurant, which of course was pretty nice, and she was leaving to go to Ohio. She was already in Michigan, and of course everything seemed to be going normal after her restaurant. She ended up being driven with her parents, and they were going past by several places that had been abandoned for years. Of course, her mother had to use the bathroom, so they pulled over to a restaurant that it did run down on the outside, but they thought that maybe there could be somebody inside the restaurant. However, the oddest thing was that they didn't see any cars there. So while her mother went to use the bathroom, Carly ended up looking to see if there could be anybody around the diner. However, when she looked inside the diner, she couldn't see anybody, and she ended up looking inside to think that maybe there was someone who was in there, or maybe there could have been a way to get inside the restaurant. After she looked around, she couldn't find anybody in there, but it looked like somebody had been in there for a while. It looked really run down, and even she looked in the inside to see there was some trash and even some furniture still around. However, she ended up deciding to have a look inside. Now, knowing Carly, she had been pretty much the daredevil and always liked to go exploring. However, her parents were still looking around thinking there could be somebody out there, but however, Carly ended up hearing what seemed to be a sudden change of cool temperature. Honestly, this was odd since she never really know about who was there, but it seemed like cold air suddenly rushed in. It honestly really baffled her, but however, though, it looked really abandoned, so maybe she was feeling something odd. She kind of felt the really negative energy, and it kind of made her curious as to what kind of energy it was. However, she waited what seemed to be a few moments before she ended up hearing what seemed like a scream coming from one of the hallways of the restaurant. That is when she booked out of there, and she told her parents that she doesn't feel safe and they should get out of here, to which they ended up doing so. However, though, they didn't even acknowledge who or what was in there, but they ended up leaving that area as soon as possible, and they never really said anything much about the restaurant. It's unsure as to what she heard in there, but what she could describe is, could it have been paranormal, or was there somebody really in there to try to lure her in? That really still sends chills down her spine to this day when she thinks about this trip.